Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Crusadia deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is probably one of the best OTK decks in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And can summon one of the coolest monsters in the entire game, which is Crusadia Equalmax. And this card is really amazing because you can even give it double piercing damage on your side of the field to be able to just completely OTK your opponent, and it gains attack points to equal to the amount of every single monster it points to, which is just crazy. This deck is a really budget OTK deck that if you guys are looking for an amazing OTK deck, this is probably the one for you. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name screwed in a single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting your requested deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, you're going to be playing 3 copies of Crusadia Equalmax. So Crusadia Equalmax is a really awesome card. I just love the artwork of this entire deck. It's really amazing. So what this card does is you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position to a zone a link monster points to. You can only special summon this card once per turn this way. So all of your Crusadia monsters share that ability that you can special summon them to a zone that a link monster points to in defense position, and when you do special summon them in defense position to a zone a link monster points to, they basically just stay there and give them buffs, which is pretty good. So it has the ability that you can to target one Crusadia Link monster you control, and this turn, if it battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is doubled. Also, other monsters you control cannot attack. We then play 3 copies of Crusadia Leonis. Crusadia Leonis is really, really good in this deck. Crusadia Leonis has basically the exact same effect as your Crusadia Maximus, and it has the ability that makes it so that it gives your monster piercing damage, which is where the double piercing damage comes from. So basically, if you summon out your copy of Equalmax to your field, and you have the copy of Crusadia Leonis pointing here, and your copy of Crusadia Maximus pointing here, then you can make the Equalmax go up to where it's actually going to be doing double piercing damage, and it gains attack equal to the monsters it points to. So it basically is going to go up by 3,800 all the way, or 2,800, excuse me, to 4,800 to be able to OTK your opponent, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Crusadia Draco. Crusadia Draco is really good too because you can special summon this card to a link zone that a monster points to, and it has the ability if this card is normal or special summoned to a zone a link monster points to, then you get to target one Crusadia card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. We then play 3 copies of the Water Crusadia monster. This card is okay. It's a tuner monster which comes in kind of handy in this deck, but basically what it does is if this card is in, or if a Crusadia monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you this card from your field or graveyard instead, which comes in handy every so often, but the level 3 tuner monster is going to come up more often than that effect. We then play 2 copies of Crusadia Reclusia. Reclusia I did bump down to 2. It kind of is a scrap dragon, and I didn't feel like I needed it so much in this deck, but what it does is if this card is normal or special summoned to a zone link monster points to, then you can target one Crusadia card you control and one card your opponent controls and destroy them, which is pretty good to be able to just pop a card you have and a card your opponent has. We then play a single copy of World Legacy World Crown. World Legacy World Crown is basically a Crusadia card because it's the World Legacy artifact that kind of goes along with the Crusadia cards. But what this card does is you can special summon this card to your, from your hand in defense position to a zone a link monster points to. You can only use effect this card once per turn, which is the big effect that you're going to be using with this card. And then also, when a monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck activates this effect, quick effect, you contribute this card and negate the activation to destroy it. And if this card is normal summon or set card is tributed, then you get to add 1 World Legacy spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good. Like, I really like this effect. It's probably one of the better World Legacy pieces outside of like World Legacy Chalice and World Legacy Armor. We then play 3 copies of Rescue Cat. The 3 Rescue Cats come in really handy because they can help you special summon out your Leonises to your side of the field, and even special summon out your Elephon, which I still play the single copy of Elephon because it is a beast tuner that can be special summoned to your field really easily to help you go for Naturia Beast, because you can just normal summon out your Rescue Cat, tribute this card, and then be able to special summon an Elephon and a Leonis to be able to synchro summon into a copy of Naturia Beast, because depending on what you're playing against, locking your opponent down from spells comes in really handy. We then play the the Kaiju package still in the deck, which I changed it up a little bit. I'm playing 2 copies of the Thunder King Kaiju. I'm playing 2 copies of the Multi-Dimensional Kaiju. And then I'm playing a single copy of Dolgaran and a single copy of Gameciel. So I'm playing 6 in total still, but I've kind of changed it up. You can play any 6 that you particularly want, but I play these 6 because I want to be able to summon them to my side of the field and my opponent's side of the field to be able to boost up my monsters by even more attack points. So I play the Thunder King because I want to make sure that I can give my opponent a Thunder King with Interrupted Kaiju Slumber to be able to help me OTK my opponent, which comes in really, really handy in this deck. And the other ones are basically here just to out other cards that my opponent might have. We then play 3 copies of Parallel Xyz, which helps out the deck a lot to be able to go into all sorts of really good plays, because you can just use them as link materials to deal with whatever your opponent has. Like, you can use these to go into like an IP Masquerena, you can go into something like a number 60. These are really good to go into number 60 to be able to help you OTK your opponent, or you can just use them as link material to go into something like a Lib, or you can use them to go into a Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, depending on the field that your opponent's established. But these are really good to be able to just summon to your field and bait hand traps as well, because basically you special summon the first one and then you can use its effect to be able to special summon an additional one from the deck for free, which is why I play it as a 3 of. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn, because the Monster Reborn is just basically here as a really good extender for this deck. Play a single copy of Instant Fusion, because the Instant Fusion comes in really handy to give you additional monsters on the field to help you link climb. 1 copy of Call by the Grave. The Call by the Grave is just here to stop our opponent's hand traps. We play a single copy of World Legacy Succession, because World Legacy Succession is basically an additional Monster Reborn, but you have to special summon into a link zone, which is pretty good. And then for the Crusadia spells and traps, I'm playing a single copy of Crusadia Power, because it lets you target a Crusadia monster you control. That Crusadia monster is unaffected by card effects this turn except its own, which comes in pretty handy. 1 copy of Crusadia Revival. All Crusadia Link monsters on the field gain 500 attack, and then once per turn you can target 1 Crusadia Link monster you control. And this turn, even if this card leaves the field, it can attack all monsters once each, which comes in really, really handy with Ecomax doing double damage, and also inflicting piercing damage is just crazy good. And then I play 3 copies of Crusadia Testament. So Crusadia Testament was a card that I kind of was sleeping on, and I didn't realize how good it was until I was like, okay, I get to draw cards, but the first effect is where it's at. So what this card does is you can activate one of these effects. Your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in response to the activation of your Crusadia monster effects this turn. That's really good, and I didn't even realize it. Like, in previous builds, I was like, okay, it's a one of, I can search it, that's fine. But this is pretty much Dark Ruler No More. Like, it's pretty much like a searchable Dark Ruler No More in this deck, and why I bumped it up to 3. It also has the ability that after damage calculation, if your Crusadia Link monster destroys an opponent's monster of battle, you get to draw cards equal to the monster's Link rating, which can be all the way up to 4 cards that you can draw off of this. So I did bump it up to 3 copies because I'm really liking the 3 copies. Like, I didn't think I was going to like this card, and I drew it one time when I was playing on Yugioh Pro, and I was like, oh wow, that's really good, because I didn't realize how well it worked with stuff that your opponent can't respond to your actual Crusadia monster effects, and it's just so good to help you OTK your opponent. We then play 3 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber to board wipe our opponent to be able to go into some really, really good plays, to be able to just kind of give our opponent a 30 or a 3,000 attack point Kaiju in the form of Dolgaran, or a 2,800, and then we get the 33 to be able to boost our Crusadia Equalmax all the way up by 6,300, plus on top of its 2,000, which will boost it all the way up to 83, which is pretty big. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Crusadia Equalmax. The double Crusadia Equalmax is just basically here so you can climb the ladder twice. It has the ability that gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters this card points to. It also has the ability that once per turn, you contribute 1 Crusadia or World Legacy monster this card points to, and then get to target 1 card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn, which is pretty good just to give you an additional negation on field. We then play 2 copies of Regulex, which every time I do this video, it still kind of like bugs me that this is literally the only of the extra deck monsters and the main deck monsters that's not hollowed. Like, I really wish that they would go ahead and just hollow this card in like an OTS pack. It would be really nice to have the whole deck hollowed. I mean, everything was printed in common originally, pretty much, except for a couple of the cards, but I really wish this card was hollow. But what it does is it gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters it points to, and then monsters this card points to cannot attack, and if a effect monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you get to add a Crusadia spell or trap from your deck to your hand. We then play 2 copies of Crusadia Magius. Magius does the exact same thing as your Regulex. It gains attack equal to the amount of the monsters that it points to, but you get to add a Crusadia monster from your deck to your hand if a monster special summoned to a zone it points to, which comes in pretty handy in a deck like this to be able to get you a monster search and then a spell and trap search, and then you get your big OTK piece. We then play a single copy of Spatha. Spatha is kind of neat because it gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters it points to, but a monster that points to this card can't attack. And then once returned, an effect monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to. Then you get to target one monster in either player's main monster zone, and then you get to move it to another main monster zone, which can be pretty good in this deck to help you move stuff around that you might want in different positions. We then play a single copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. Avermax is just a really good beat stick that if you do need it and you feel like you can't OTK your opponent in one swipe, you can use this to be able to go instead of your Equalmax. Equalmax gets big. This is more protection against, it has more like built-in protection, which is why I play it as a one of. And then play a single copy of Lib. Lib is really good in the deck too. It takes any two monsters and can only be link summoned while you have a World Legacy card in your graveyard. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. That during the main phase, you can set a World Legacy spell or trap directly from your deck, but it cannot be activated the turn it was, or it cannot be activated this turn while you have no World Legacy monsters in the graveyard. And if this card link summon is sent to the graveyard as link material, you can shuffle one card on the field in the deck. So it helps me out certain cards that can't be targeted. We then play a single copy of Unicorn. Unicorn is just here to spin stuff, which is really nice. One copy of IP Masquerena as well. The Masquerena is also here because you can go into the Unicorn during our opponent's turn, or if my opponent stops me on like the Regulex, I can then go into an IP and then go from IP in the Regulex into a Avermax, which comes in handy as well. And for the other cards we're playing in the deck, we're playing a single copy of FA Dawn Dragster. The Dawn Dragster is basically here because you can use the level 3 tuner monster to be able to go with a level 4 monster to synchro into Dawn Dragster to give you additional spell and trap negations. One copy of Naturia Beast. This could also be Black Rose if you needed it to be. This could be any level 7 synchro monster. Naturia Beast is here to negate spells, and one copy of number 60 because it can double the attack of monster, let you draw 2 and discard 1, or be able to special summon something back from the graveyard at the cost of a different phase per effect. For example, if you double the attack of a monster, you skip your battle phase. We then play a single copy of Millenniumize Restrict, which is our only actual copy of a single like level 1 monster. It's like our only copy of our instant fusion target. Like, it's the only thing that we summon. Now, I don't play Link Revo in here because the extra deck is extremely tight, and so you basically just throw the Millenniumize on the field and then you wait for a hand trap and then you link it away for something like a copy of IP or a copy of Lib if you can summon Lib and you have the requirements to summon that card. So it comes in handy in the deck quite often. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really, really fun deck to play around with. I highly recommend that if you guys have never played a link-based deck or want a really good OTK deck to be able to kind of like go in, and it's really, really easy to learn because basically you just normal summon a monster, link for Magius, and then you special summon another one, and then link for Regulex, and then you special summon another one, and you link for Equalmax, and then you put 2 monsters in the zones, and you've already gotten 2 searches as well, so it comes in pretty handy. Like, this deck is really good. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.